Hello, today on Online for Authors, I'm chatting with Liz Mugavero, author of 3 mystery series and the founder of the Creativity Lab. Today, she's going to chat with us about creative recovery. Welcome, Liz.
Hi, Terry. Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you again.
Yes, it's exciting for you to be here. So just to get started, why don't you give everyone a little bit about yourself, both as an author and then as the founder of the Creativity Lab?
Sure. So I've been writing books I've been publishing books for like 12 years, but I've been writing my whole life. I've been a writer of all sorts. I started in journalism. Well, actually, I started as a really bad poet as a teenager.
I think we all have the really bad poet moments.
I even tried to write a soap opera when I was a teenager. And then I went to college for English and grad school for writing and publishing, and I became a journalist, and I, went into marketing and communications. And the whole time I was writing books and plotting how I was going to take over the world as far as mystery books go. And I finally got my first contract in 2011. So 2011. I wrote my first published book in 2012, and it came out in 2013. So I am the author of 18 mystery novels within 3 series, and I have 2 names. So one of my series is under my real name, Liz Mugavero, and my other 2 are under a pen name, Cate Conte, which is after my grandfather because he was a detective and he was my original inspiration for crime and storytelling and all of the things.
Fantastic. And then what about this Creativity Lab? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I was really thinking about writing and, starting out and how hard it was to kind of keep the faith it took me 10 years to get my first publishing contract. So after I left grad school, I decided, okay, now I'm going to write mysteries. And then I just started immersing myself in the mystery community. I went to conferences, I met people, I wrote and I revised and I pitched and I did the whole thing all over again.
Pitched and wrote and revised and pitched, right?
Pretty much. So after 10 years, I like to say it happened overnight. I had an opportunity to write a proposal for a cozy mystery series, which I had never actually considered writing. Like I was always in the really dark mystery space, at least in my head. And so, but I was like, I can't pass this up. And so I figured out how to write a cozy, and I, got my first contract. But it took a lot of perseverance, and I was always working, to this day, still I work a bunch of jobs, and I started thinking about people just starting out and, how lucky I was to have mentors and community and, people to be accountable to and people to help me get my career off the ground. And I really just felt compelled to start something to, give that to people who are just starting out. So the Creativity Lab is a membership. And, right now what we're doing is we get together a few times a week and we basically write. So we do a little goal setting, we do a little group coaching, and we set a timer and we write. And we do that 4 or 5 times a week. And we also have people come in and teach master classes. We do challenges. Like right now we're going through the Artist's Way as a group, and we're taking a year to do it. So instead of doing a chapter a week, we're doing a chapter a month just to give everyone time.
Because it's not like authors aren't busy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Because usually we're busier than most because we're doing multiple things,
Exactly.
So that became my place to just be kind of a champion for people and, wherever they were, whatever they wanted to write, wherever they were in the process, just kind of help them get back to their writing, even if they just wanted to come and journal, just spending some time with your own thoughts and a page is very healing.
Fantastic. So we were going to talk today about creative recovery, but before we do that, why don't we define it? What do you mean? No, seriously, what do you mean when you say creative recovery? What are you actually talking about? Are you talking about an afternoon at the beach, or are you talking about something, heftier than that?
Yeah. So I can't take credit for the term. It's a Julia Cameron term. So Julia Cameron is the author of The Artist's Way that I just mentioned. And her book really, she's got a lot of books, but her, OG, The Artist's Way is really like a 12-step program for creatives, basically. And it's teaching you how to, kind of come out of this maybe perhaps unmanageable way we've been thinking about creativity and the world in our own life and kind of get back to yourself and, actually figure out who you are as a creative person, and then how to let that creative person come out and play. Because really all we creatives want to do is come out and play, right? But we've often been told, and many of us, I'm pretty sure, like my parents would kind of look at me skeptically when I would say I'm going to be a novelist, and they'd be like, that's great, but you're also going to be a teacher, right?
Like what are you going to really do?
Yes.
Yeah. I was told that being an author essentially is a great way to starve to death. Yeah. So what are you going to do too?
Yeah.
It couldn't be your only thing. Because it's not real.
Right. And we hear that. So many people hear that. And, where we are right now in this moment in our country, in our world, like I have so many things I think about that. And just, I read a thread the other day about how one of the ways women, because, the majority of artists, I would say, are women, not all, obviously, but a lot of women are artists. And, the things that we like and the things that we think are meaningful are often kind of pushed aside or labeled as flighty or dreamy or unrealistic or, all the things. And nothing's ever taken seriously. So then we stop learning how to take ourselves seriously. And I thought that was really an interesting way to look at it. And so I think at the heart of it, that's what creative recovery is figuring out how to tap back into your own creativity, your own inspiration, and then to take it seriously and like be really selfish about making sure that you have time to do it and to put it out in the world.
So as an author, at what point does someone look at themselves and say, oh, this is what I need? Creative, like what are they experiencing that they should now be tapping into this idea of creative recovery?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm going through it right now. So, I'm kind of at a point in my life where so many things are changing and different. And, I've been, like I said, I have 18 books in my cozy realm. I'm working on number 19 right now. It's due at the end of the year. This is my last book in this current contract. So I've been thinking a lot about, what's next? What am I doing? What do I really want to do? How do I want to do it? How do I want to show up? And, coupled with lots of other changes, sometimes it can really put you in a place of like paralysis, right? Or also not able to really know or feel like you don't know what you actually want or how to even make anything happen. So it's really kind of that feeling of like, oh my God, I'm stuck and I don't know what to do next. Okay. And I've been kind of going through that myself lately, just again, like external factors, internal factors, all of it kind of coming together. Right. And I actually this morning said to myself, so we're on chapter 5 in the membership with The Artist Way. And I said to myself this morning, maybe I need to go through and do a chapter a week just on my own and then, keep going along with the group at the other pace. Right. Because I am in need right now.
I am in need. So this idea of creative recovery then can come about because of many different things. It could be something going on in your own personal life that has like stopped you dead in your tracks because of changes in life. It could be things socially. It could be, I don't know, could it even be like writer's block kind of thing where you're just sitting there going, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do now?
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's a difference, right, between, again, I have to credit Julia Cameron for starting my brain thinking this way. But, we talk about writer's block. I don't necessarily buy into writer's block as much because I'll just give you an example of why that is. So I was a journalist and I was, on the main beat at my last job. I was on the main beat of the paper and it was a very busy time. And I was writing 3 or 4 stories a day. And I had a competitor who was like on my heels every day, So if I couldn't get the stories out and I got scooped, my editor was not going to be happy with me. Right. And he was not going to accept me saying,
I had writer's
don't really
block.
know what to write today. So I'm going to just sit this one out. So I had to come up with those stories. But I think creative blocks are a real thing. And I think those are the deeper blocks of like, I don't feel worthy enough to say this, or I've let so many other things into my head that I don't know what's mine anymore. Yeah. Or how to say that.
I like that idea of creative block. I too don't know that I believe in writer's block. I think a lot of times when you don't know what to write down or you feel that way, it's because there's too many other things going on in your life at the moment and you need to find space again. Yeah. Like, how are you going to create space? And so you either need to fix whatever it is that is taking up all of your attention, or find a way to corral it and put it aside so that you then have time for that creativity that happens. So I like that idea of creatively blocked. I think that makes a lot more sense. So let's talk some techniques then. You know, you find yourself in this place where you're not sure what's next, or what you're looking for, or even if you're the one that should be writing, what kinds of things can you do to kind of move you toward this creative recovery?
Yeah. The number one thing I think is journaling. So I do morning pages every day. I have noticed the past couple of weeks, so I've been on a couple of trips, things have just been, I've been out of my routine, and I haven't been journaling every day. And that has been a huge problem, right? So I can tell when I'm not doing that, because it manifests itself in many ways in my day, in a not good way. So journaling every morning, the 3 pages of morning pages, I think is huge. And it's just, getting all the junk out of your head and getting it onto the page where you can kind of separate it from, okay, now I need to think about, whatever else it is that I'm doing today that's more important, and it's not going to be jumbled up with all this other stuff.
So having never done a morning page in my life, what does that look like?
Yeah. So again, this is an artist way thing, but it's 3 pages. Sorry about my dogs.
That's all right.
You can't hear them very well. They always know the perfect time to do this stuff. They're 3 pages, longhand, recommended, 8.5 by 11, like a regular size notebook, not like a little teeny one. And just write down anything. It doesn't have to make sense. It's not something you should ever go back and read. Sometimes I do, just to kind of see where I was at certain places, but you don't have to, go back and read it. Just get all the junk down. If you don't have anything to say, just write, I don't have anything to say today. And keep writing that until you hit 3 pages, but just to kind of get yourself
that out.
Yeah. And get yourself in that space of like, okay, I'm just going to keep writing. I'm just going to keep writing. And then something might come up right at the end of that 3rd page.
I like that idea. I think because it's the way I handle my life, not with journaling so much, but I tell people all the time, I can't be logical and come up with solutions until I've been emotional and got rid of the stewing that happens. And so my husband and I in 2020 rode across the United States on a tandem bicycle. And you see me, I kept a blog every day when doing it. And throughout that, if you read it, I cried a lot. And we would be up against something that was really difficult, and I would cry. And then my husband at first didn't know what to do with that, and he kept trying to fix it, and I just needed to cry. And then when I was done crying, I would say, okay, let's get back on the bike. We got to go. And he always looked so amazed. And so it sounds like maybe that's what these morning pages do, is it allows you to get all of that stuff out.
Yeah, definitely. And first of all, that's so amazing that you did that. And I love that story, and we'll always love that story. But second of all, I think, you really hit on something there, because again, as women, right, how often are we told like, oh, don't cry, don't show your feelings, you got to be tough, right?
You're too emotional.
Yeah, just hold it in and ignore it. And that's not the way to any kind of creativity. That's going to make you just angry.
Yeah. Well, and then for me, if I have all of that swirling stuff going on, I can't function. Like I'm just nothing. And so if I can go ahead and let it out, and it's not pretty, like I'm crying, I'm a whole mess, but then I'm like, okay, now it's time. So I kind of like that idea. I'm personally not a good journaler. I think that I worry too much about what it is I'm writing. And who's going to see it later. And will it be worthy of someone else to look at? So I like the idea that morning pages, like when I'm done with the notebook, I can actually throw it out.
Yeah.
I don't have to feel like my grandkids are someday going to look at it.
Yeah. No, in fact, they shouldn't. And, I used to be that way too about journaling, and I wouldn't want to mess up my notebooks.
Yeah,
but,
I have all of these little things and I don't have pretty handwriting and like all of the things, right?
Yeah, but it's so funny how we are like that perfectionist thing. Yeah. I will say that I had an experience once where and I talk about this a lot because I think people are afraid that someone's going to read their journal. So they hold back, right?
Right.
I had an experience where a partner, we were in the process of splitting, went and read my journals. And not just read them, took pictures of some of the pages and sent them to family.
Oh.
And, I could have at that moment, I had been journaling for a long time at that point. And this was actually the person who had turned me on to Artist Way, the morning pages, right?
Yeah.
So knew the purpose of them and knew how they were supposed to work.
And knew what was going to be in them. Right.
Yes.
Right. Understood exactly what they were going for.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so I could have used that as an excuse to like, oh, I'm never going to journal again,
Right.
But I was like, you know what? No, they're not going to take that from
They don't get to take that. Yeah.
No, because those were my feelings. They weren't necessarily feelings that, were going to stick around forever. But in the moment, those were the feelings and I got them out, and that's what the pages are for.
I like that idea. Okay. So beyond this idea of morning journaling, what do you call them? Morning pages. Mm-hmm. What are some other techniques that can help with this idea of creative recovery?
Yeah. So definitely for me, meditation. Like I try to meditate every morning. That's another, like I have this whole routine in the morning. So meditation, first coffee, meditation, because you can't do anything without coffee, right?
I'm actually not a coffee drinker. So people look at me like, how do you function? And it's like, maybe I'm not functioning. I mean, you don't really know, right? So
yes, that was going to be my next question. No.
Yeah. It could be that I'm actually not functioning and could do better with coffee. We'll have to, explore that at some point. But.
I mean, it could just be that I'm an addict. That is entirely possible too. But yeah, coffee, meditation, morning pages, and then I take my dogs for a walk. And so that long one, and I'm blessed to live on the beach. And so we get to walk on the beach every day. And, that walk has been a lifesaver for me.
Yeah.
Many, many times. And lately where I feel like I've been in this energy of like grasping, right? Like I need the next idea and I need it now,
Right.
And so I'm like, I can feel my mind like trying to grasp at things, that are going to turn
Could this be it? Yeah.
Yeah. That are going to turn into this big idea. And so I've recognized that, and I know it's not healthy. And I've been trying to really just, when I find myself doing that, I go for a walk. And for me, I like to listen to like true crime podcasts because it's a little bit of a distraction. And also I have found ideas bubbling up from just hearing like a phrase of, something that's happened to someone else that could turn into a whole thing. So
yeah, no, I like that idea. I too I don't live on the beach, but I live near the beach, and I love a good beach walk. I tell people I hate for anyone who might be walking behind me, because I'm dropping all of this stuff, and I hope that they are very cautious and not accidentally collecting it onto themselves, because as I walk, I usually start out my walk and I feel stormy, kind of like, and I'm walking and my mind is just racing. And by the time I'm done with my walk, I feel like I'm walking more in tune with the waves, and my mind is more, I shouldn't say empty. It's not really, because it's full of thoughts, but they're calmer. They're, I don't know. And I get my best ideas walking on the beach. I'll be walking on the beach and all of a sudden it's like, and I quick say something into my phone so that I'll keep that idea, because otherwise I'm afraid I'll lose it by the time I get home. But I love those ideas that I collect on the beach.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea of dropping things behind you. Now that's a great visualization technique, actually.
Is it?
Well, tomorrow.
And I feel that way too. Another thing that I enjoy, I have a lot of trouble with meditation because I have trouble making myself get still. But I've noticed that I get into what is probably like meditation when I swim. I love to swim laps. And I often picture all of the yuck falling off of me in the water. Like I can just, I blow it out. I can just feel it and it just goes off into the water and floats away. And then by the time I'm done with my swim, I'm feeling very calm. And part of it is I do meditate because I get I breathe in a certain pattern and I hum, and I'm going, and I didn't do that thinking that it was meditative, but I learned later that seems to be what I do. Like I have to be moving. If I'm still, my mind is just running full steam and I'm not getting anything out of it. So it's like I have to do something with my body,
Yeah.
And if you watch me when I talk, I mean, I'm all over the place, right? And so I'm not still. I don't know how to do still. Yeah. So I've just learned not to kick myself for it and do what works, right?
Yeah, I mean, accepting the way we are and what we need is also a huge part of it, right? Because often, like when I first started learning, these techniques and self-help and things like that, I would like go follow people and be like, all right, I have to follow everything they say and everything they do. And then I'm like, why is none of this working for me?
Right. Yeah. It's because we're all different and we all have different, I think the idea of meditation is great. But do it the way that it works best for you. If you're a quiet, still sit in a particular position, great. If you're someone who needs it a different way, well, so be it. I think
walking is meditation. Like you said, swimming is meditation. Journaling is meditation.
I think there's just a lot of ways to allow that expression. Yeah. I know that I was reading your bio, and one of the things that you said in your bio was like trying to, you had to get rid of a lot of other people's expectations and that can kind of stop up that creativity. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, when I first was starting out, like I said, I've been writing my whole life, and I always knew I was really lucky in the sense of like, I always knew I wanted to write books, and I never wavered from that. I did a lot of other things along the way,
but you knew you were going there, right? Yes, yeah,
for sure. But I also let people's like my parents, I let their insecurities and their skepticism really like, as much as I tried to resist it, it's still sunk into my brain,
Right. What other people think, even if you say it doesn't matter what other people think, it does. You do. There's that little voice somewhere that will say, you remember, like if you don't do something well, or you think this is going to be the big thing and it isn't. And then you hear that little voice that said, we told you this would never work. You still hear it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And to this day, I think there are still things that maybe I haven't realized, right, that are still kind of underneath there that are holding me back a little bit.
Right.
And I've been trying to really kind of think through how that works and what those things are and tell myself a new story.
I think that's where the imposter syndrome comes from. That idea of, I can't really be. I know for a long time, I didn't feel like a real author because I didn't do it the right way. I'm a pantser, and so many of the people that I revered in terms of being authors were plotters who, and would actually say things like, if you don't plot out a story, it will never be good, and therefore I must not be doing it right. Yeah. And therefore I'm not an actual author. Yeah. I'm playing at it. I'm not really succeeding at it. And you have to learn to be able to let those musts go. I also do not write every single day. Mm-hmm. Some days I have nothing to say, and I don't feel like sitting in front of my computer for 2 hours, wasting 2 hours, knowing full well that I don't have anything to say right now. Yeah. And so I don't worry about the fact that I don't sit down every day. Yeah. And I have other people that I know that sit down every day from a certain time to a certain time. It will never work for me. And I think learning that too is part of your creative recovery, is recognizing, first of all, that not everything everyone does works for every person, and then it's okay to find your own space, like what works for you.
Yes, 1,000%. And I love both those examples because I went through a similar thing with the plotting and the pantsing. Yeah. And it took me a really long time to first learn that there's a spectrum. It's not
exactly. You're not one or the other, right? Right.
Because I've even heard people like pantsers say to plotters, like, well, if you plot, your story's not going to be great because you're not leaving room for the magic, right? So it goes, the criticism goes both ways, and it's also silly.
Well, and it is, because the truth is that I know some plotters who have written some amazing books, and I know pantsers who've written some amazing books. So it doesn't seem to be plotting or pantsing that makes the book amazing.
No.
Right? Because if it were that, then there would only be one way to write a book.
Exactly. Exactly. And
right?
it's all about, and I teach this too. I also have a course on how to write a mystery, but there's a mindfulness component to it.
Yeah,
And the whole first module is about creating that sustainable writing practice and how to
right.
do that, which is not like this is how you have to do it, but it's like exploring the things. Here are some ideas. Take some
What
time to figure out what works for
what works for
you.
you?
Yeah.
Exactly,
And then that's
exactly.
your practice. And
And
it
then
could change too.
yeah, I was going to say that's what I was just about to say. So right now I'm dealing with the fact that my husband has an illness that is taking up an incredible amount of time and requires me to not be able to go somewhere for too long. It used to be that my best writing happened outside of my home, outside of my office, when I had 2 or 3 days or a week. Like if I could find a week-long writer's retreat, I could get so much done because I didn't have any of the responsibilities of my home.
Yeah.
Right. And I could just, well, I don't get that opportunity right now. I cannot possibly leave for a week. And if I get a chance to leave for 2 or 3 days, I'm so tired that I usually sleep through them and there's no writing that's happening there. So I've had to learn how to change that and find bits of time to write.
Yeah.
And so you do sometimes have, just because of necessity,
Yeah.
you might have to change up what works for you. Or your body can get bored. I mean, I think sometimes you just get tired of doing the same old thing and you sit down to the same old thing and you start writing the same old thing and it doesn't feel magical anymore. And so shake it up a little, see what happens, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to hear that your husband's ill. I hope he's better soon.
Thank you.
But you're so right. Like we have to be adaptable and we can't, I've been guilty of that. Okay, now I found my thing. This will be my thing forever and ever.
No.
No.
No. And writers, like everyone, resist change. Nobody likes to do things differently than we've always done them because change is scary and who wants to do that, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes I think, trying something new, seeing what happens. And if it doesn't work for you, it's okay to say, yeah, that didn't work so well, and then try something else. I mean, that's kind of the joy of learning new things is, did it work for me? And if not, well, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have been trying lately too, because that's been going through my mind too. Like, all right, well, you're feeling so blah, like let's do something different. We don't have to do the morning routine the exact same way we do it, have been doing it for the past 3 years, right? We can do something different. We can work out later in the day. We can go to a coffee shop for a couple hours. We can do anything we want.
Right.
Something.
There's a lot of options out there and you don't have to limit yourself. Right. I like that idea as well. Any other techniques that you really want to bring forward? Especially, we're going to be starting this new year and people are, we're often at the new year, we're setting all these resolutions for ourselves, etc. What else can you offer for an author who feels somehow stuck or unsure?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, and this is something that I'm trying to learn to spend more time on because, we've been raised in this productivity and hustle culture and how many words did you write today? And if you don't have the word count to show, then what did you do all day? Right. So I've really been trying to incorporate daydreaming and thinking time. And it's hard. It is hard to give yourself permission to sit there and, on the outside, it's like, well, what's she sitting there twiddling her thumbs and eating bonbons kind of thing? Right. But to give myself time to sit there and actually have time to think.
I think daydreaming is a huge component, which is part of what I do when I'm out walking on the beach, is once I've gotten my mind to stop swirling through the 4,000 million things I need to be doing at home, and I'm finally to that point, that's what I am doing. I'm daydreaming. I see a bird flying and the next thing you know, you're just kind of doing the thing. I think that's some of where the best ideas, resolutions for something you're writing and you don't really know where it's going to go next. Like you feel maybe stuck and all of a sudden it's like, ooh, what if I tried this? And then you can play it out in your mind and see, it didn't work so well. And then I don't know. I do a lot of daydreaming. And I think, so when I tell people I don't write every day, I don't actually sit down and do a word count every day. But I think I'm always doing something writer-like.
Yes. I think it's hard not to as writers, right?
Yeah. It's just sometimes it's contemplation.
Yeah.
Which I think is perfectly acceptable. So I love that.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's necessary, not even acceptable. And I think for me, like I've been trying to, so my walks are usually with my headphones and some kind of podcast or book and my dogs, right?
Yeah.
So I'm still going to do that every morning, but now I'm trying to do a second walk without any content in my ears. And I love my dogs so much. But when I'm walking with them, I'm paying attention to how cute they are and whether they're, jumping on each other and trying to attack a seagull. So it's like, just go for a walk yourself with no distractions and see what happens.
Usually when I do a walk, I will walk part of the way completely with nothing. And then I usually start listening to an audiobook at the point that I've gotten too tired and I'm thinking, oh, I'm never going to make it back to my car. Why did I walk so far? I'll start listening because now I'm no longer being creative. I'm complaining. And then I'll listen to an audiobook and get myself back home. So,
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
I love that. So tell me, Liz, what is next for you? Anything new and exciting coming up?
Yeah, so I'm trying to finish book number 9 in my Cat Café series right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's I have to turn in by the end of the year, so I'm excited about that. And then I'll be thinking about what next 3 books I want to pitch to my publisher.
Fantastic.
And then the membership is opening up again soon, so I'm looking to welcome some new members in. And and then I'll be talking about my class again at the beginning of the year. So hopefully, if people are interested in learning how to write a mystery, we can chat.
Fantastic. So, hey guys, if you want to continue this wonderful book conversation, head on over to Novels and Latte Book Club on Facebook. And there you're going to have an opportunity to win one of Liz's books. It's called Shock and Paw. And this is one that is written under her pen name, which was
Cate Conte.
Cate Conte. All right. And so you'll have a chance to win that. So head on over to Novels and Latte and look for the post that I put up there. Kate, if someone, not Kate, Liz.
Either one.
Hey, Liz.
Either works.
If someone wanted to get in touch with you to learn more about this idea of recovery, to find out about how to become a member for your creative lab, to take one of your courses, just to chat with you about ideas, how do they do that?
Absolutely. So my website's the easiest. You can find everything from there, but it's Cate with a C, CateConte.com. And then I'm on social and all over the place. I have a Substack also and a podcast.
Fantastic. And I'll have all of those links in my show notes, so make sure you look there. I want to thank you so much, Liz, for being with me today. I really enjoyed chatting with you. It was kind of fun to be on the other side of the podcast. I was on your podcast earlier, so that was fun. And definitely, guys, run out and check out all that she has to offer, her books and her courses and all the things that she offers to authors.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Online for Authors, where I, Terry M. Brown, author of character-driven fiction and host of the podcast, introduce readers to characters they'd love to invite to lunch. Tune in next Tuesday for another podcast episode.